I need my spatula, wherever that is. This spatula was a gift to Nancy's father and I when we got married in 1948. I'm still using it. And it's still good, no handle, but amazing how some things just stay in your home. You always use them, you need them. Now, my memory isn't as good as it was. Sometimes what I do now is I will put flour and the Crisco and then I'll mix it up and I think, did I put the salt? I'm not sure I put the salt in. And I'll taste it and I still can't tell, and I will just start over. I'd rather start over than make a pie crust without salt. Would taste terrible. I took one to a friend, Colleen, the other day. She had called me and she said, I'm so upset that my husband has cancer in his ear. And she said, and I can't walk. And I said, Colleen, what can I do for you? And she said, there isn't really anything you can do. I said, I know you love cream cheese pie. I said, I'm gonna bake you one. And I did the next day. They're so touched by it. And it isn't hard for me, and yet it makes me feel good too. It's true, I get the blessing too, but it's extra special to people that are shut in.
From the start, did you love cooking, or is that something you kind of grew to love later?
I started cooking about 8 years old, and on the farm, and it wasn't much cooking because we had pinto beans every day and cornbread. That was our staple. And my mother was raising children. So my mother would have a baby. She was not able to cook for a few days. And I would just cook or beans in the cornbread. And that was a meal that everyone liked. My mother, every Sunday, after we moved to California, she cooked beef roast, mashed potatoes, gravy, and green beans, and cornbread every Sunday. Whether we notified her or not, it was ready. If we went, all right. If we didn't, and if we went, we would all just go in and sit down and eat. It was amazing that she could handle all that. She was a small lady, but she was a very hardworking woman. My name is Mary Frances Hoyt. I was born August 25th, 1928. Shelbyville, Tennessee is the town that I was born near. We lived out in the country. Daddy was a sharecropper. He was a World War I veteran, and he was so proud of that. He was a very hard worker, supported us all. We never went hungry, and he just worked from morning till night. My mother was very kind and sweet. She married very young, 16 years old. She was crazy about babies. It's a good thing because then she had 8 more children. But my mother laughed a lot. She really didn't have that much to laugh about, but she did. And I thank God for the mother I had.
What's it like to grow up as a child and have that many siblings?
It's great. It's fun. We would climb those hills, climb trees. We would play in the barn. There was bales of hay. We'd jump off the roof of the barn to the ground. You always had someone to play with. Daddy being a sharecropper, occasionally things didn't work out and you'd move to another place. My uncle lived on a place and they moved to California. And so we moved into that farm. We walked to school from there. Well, I was 8 by that time. And to get to school was 3 miles through the woods, beautiful woods. The big deal of the year was having a box supper. And the students would prepare a little lunch and wrap it in a shoebox or something and make it look nice. and you would take your dad with you to school, to the box supper. And we sat there and ate together, and I'll never forget that. That was so special to me because you didn't get any time alone with your parents because it was just too hectic. But that was special. Being a sharecropper means that you live there on the farm and you grow the crops, whatever the owner wants. And at the end of the year, according to what the owner, what amount of money he made, he's supposed to pay the sharecropper, my father. They don't always pay you your portion. And it's pretty discouraging for young farmers. My dad was so hardworking. And then the uncle that came to California told my dad about there's plenty of work in California. We had also heard that the TVA was going to take over the land where we lived and make it into a recreation lake. So that meant that farm would go underwater. So about 2 years later, my dad decided that we would move to California. My dad and mother and the children and my uncle took off driving Route 66 in an old car. I rode the train out because there wasn't room for me, and it was a military train. That was during World War II. Soldiers were being transported north, south, everywhere to be sent overseas. I was with a cousin, she was older, but on this train, being a troop train, there was so crowded, so crowded, and it was a steam engine, and the windows up, and you get ashes and everything coming in the train. It was a miserable trip, but nobody complained. It's just the way things were. And when we got to Merced, my dad and mom met me there, and we stayed with my aunt and uncle for a little while. Then my dad heard of a job in Winton on a ranch. So we moved to Winton.
That bush right there
Yeah?
was planted by Dad.
Was it?
Yep, it survived.
Oh my
It was
gosh.
a hedge he put in there.
Oh my.
Yeah.
I can't think of this bush, the name of it.
This one Maxine and I put in.
It's white
Lilac.
alyssum or something?
No.
Well, that's honeysuckle on the other
yeah.
side, but this side's something different.
Right, yeah.
But
No,
that honeysuckle
particular
smells
one
good.
Survived.
He said Daddy planted that bush on the end.
It was,
That's old.
yeah, it was, like I say, a part of a hedge that he put in there.
Oh, yeah. This is where the old house was, right back of the orange tree. And Bobby and my mother planted this orange tree. And that was probably 70 years ago. And this year, we had the best, delicious crop we've ever had. Just beautiful oranges. And this fence you see here, my oldest brother, when he got out of the service, he was in World War II, he was in the Navy. When he came home, he built this little picket fence around the front of the yard and back of the house. And it's been standing there since 1940, about 1946. And it's special. It's special to me because he died long ago. This is such a beautiful plant. This grows wild in the southern states. It's honeysuckle and it just grows like crazy. It's the most delicious fragrance. Smell of it, Emily.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Oh, it is. And you know, when you walk down a road back there and this is growing on each side, it's beautiful. It's just a smell. I always love that smell. I like being out here. I feel good out here.
Does it still kind of feel like home?
Mm-hmm. When I started high school at Merced High School, I was a sophomore. I had 3 special friends, Joanne, Shirley, and Anita. Anita has passed away, There's still 3 of us. On weekends, we'd go to the lake, especially Saturdays, and we'd lay out in the sun all day long. And the 4 of us, we would go to Mass on Sunday, because I would stay in town with one of them because I lived so far out. And all 3 were Catholic. My family was so upset with me for going to Catholic church. And then I dated a Catholic boy. My brother was overseas at World War II. My mother would write to him. She told him about me dating this Catholic Italian boy. And my brother, he just about had a fit because Southerners, we had never seen a Catholic or a Catholic church. And their beliefs were really different. After a few years, I just turned away from the Catholic Church. I just couldn't go along being raised Southern Baptist. It wasn't for me. But then the funny thing, my brother came home from the Army, the Navy. He married an Italian girl. My friend Anita picked up her mail at the post office, and I thought that was so different, post office box. And I would go with her. And sometimes we'd see the postmaster, and he liked pretty girls. And he kind of flirted with us, you know. And one day he said to me, "Would you like to have a job?" And I was going to the lake, I was graduated. I didn't want a job. And I said, "I don't know." And he said, "Well, it's just temporary." I said, "All right." So I went to work at the post office, never knowing what a great opportunity it was. I ended up working 31 years, retired. And I loved working there. I loved it so much. We were a family. We were the best crew in the world. We had a lot of pride. I loved every day there. I met Jerry Lee, Nancy's father, at the skating rink. In those days, you graduated from high school, got a job, and you get married. And that's what I wanted to do. And that's what I did.
Was there a particular quality about him that
Yes, he's a good man, honest man. He was very handsome, very good looking. And he had good friends. He didn't drink. He loved all sports as far as fishing and hunting and pitching ball. He was a good man, a good father. Nancy was born November 2nd, 1952, at the Mercy Hospital on M Street. Nancy was always a good girl, little girl, big girl. She'd get dirt on her, and she'd come in, and she always was so neat and clean. And I said, "Oh, look at your dress." And she said, "It's washable." And it was washable. And she was a good student in high school. She didn't cause any trouble. She was nice. She was a really godly girl. Of course, her feelings were hurt when we went through everything we did. And it still hurts her. And that's the only part I regret. And it goes on forever. Once there's a divorce, it doesn't just end. It always hurts the children. I see it over and over, and I think, oh, if you had only known what you were doing. But we make mistakes.
What's your relationship like today as mother and daughter?
I would say closer. I'm so thankful I have her. I ask her for about everything. She does so many things for me. I have to have her. Thank God I have her. I always kind of wanted a boy, but it just didn't happen. Now I have you. She had a boy for me, huh, Nance? And she had a good one. So we share you, Matthew. And Nancy's wonderful husband, Jerry, your father, he's a great guy. He's a good man. My second marriage was to Bill in 1970. And when I was a little girl, we had a record called "I Want to Be a Cowboy's Sweetheart," Patsy Montana. And I played that over and over and over. I just loved it. Bill was a cowboy. That was that was his hobby. He was a killer. He liked to dress flashy, but good taste. And he liked the horses. He started out with bowling, and he became the best at that in Merced then. Then next he went to golf, and he got down to I think a 1 handicap. He played in tournaments everywhere. He would get trophies for best dress, of course. And then Bill decided to get his real estate license, and he became a broker and very, very good at what he was doing. I always wanted to play golf too, and he taught me how to play golf. Oh my gosh, when husband teaches you to play golf, it's tough. We'd play with other couples sometime. We won club championship. Bill and I did for 2 years in a row. And then I had 4 holes in 1. You better put that in there. And he said, they're just flukes. He wouldn't give me any credit for my golf ever. But he was so proud of me. And the first day I had retired and I had gotten good enough I could be in a tournament. And I was nervous already. He said, don't disgrace the Hoyt name. Oh my gosh. So he was proud of me as a golfer. After we were married a few years, first few years, Bill played golf every Sunday morning. That was his life thing. I went to church. I started going to the Baptist church in Winton. My dream was that he would come to church with me sometime. Being born Mormon, that was big. But he had grown away from the Mormon church. So after we were married a while, I invited him to go to church with me, and he said, I will one of these days. So I kept going, and he'd golf. Gradually, I'd ask him once in a while. And one Sunday, he said, is it okay if I go to church with you? Oh boy, I was so happy. We went to church, and he sat there. And then the next Sunday, he said, I think I'll go to church with you again. Oh, good. So we went, and we were sitting there, and he says, I have found my church. We were both baptized together, rededicated our life to Jesus. That was a wonderful day. Bill's health was bad, and I knew that, but he was able to walk right up until the day he died. But he knew that morning that something was not right. And he was diabetic. And he asked me to go out to the Brayley's and check the insulin that he had been taking. So I went out, and when I came back, I knew something was bad. He was sitting in his chair, but he ate breakfast. And he said that he started to stand up, and he said, don't worry. He said, help is on the way. That was his last words. And his friend Hugh Flanagan had just called him before I got there and told Bill that, he said, I'm coming, I'm on my way. But Hugh said something else was going on, something spiritual that he recognized. Bill was an extraordinary man. He really was. He liked to do everything just right. He was honest. And he just, I don't know, it seemed like I would always depend on him because he was always right, so why not? But he was a great guy. Life after, it takes a long time to kind of feel normal again, maybe a year. But I finally got to the point where I was happy alone, happy with my life, happy with the things I was doing, and enjoying every day.
Coming up to the present day, what's your day-to-day routine like these days?
I'm a very busy lady. I still am thinking play golf, and as soon as I get a cool 2 or 3 days, I'm going to try 9 holes again. I make jam and jellies, and I give that to people. I like to make cobblers for my family, or pies, their favorite pies, whenever they want one. I love to help my brother Bobby, whose wife has cancer. I like to take food to them on Sundays and give them a break. I still drive. I love going to Clovis, and Nancy and I spending the day or night, and we love to go shop and eat lunch. I'd have a wonderful Bible study, about 12 or 13 women that I love dearly. And we're just so devoted to each other. We pray for each other. I love life. And I in the morning I said, thank you, God, for this day. I hope I can use it to just encourage someone. I love encouraging people, and it's easy for me. So that keeps me busy. I don't think about it as much as in the last year, as I used to. The closer I gotten to this age, I know it could be tomorrow. So I used to dwell on it. I kind of was afraid, but I'm sure I don't want to die. I don't want to leave people I love, but I'm more peaceful inside. I don't guess and say, well, I hope I'm going to heaven. Hoping isn't the answer. When I accepted Jesus and was baptized, my former sins were all washed away. That was a huge blessing because I had sinned. And when we were baptized, it was a wonderful new beginning for both of us.
With the time that you have on earth remaining to you, however much that may be, what do you still want to do with that time?
I would like to keep on doing and living like I do now. I'd like to just keep on going, keep on doing what I can to help or caring for people. I'm an encourager, and I can keep doing that in a lot of ways.